Jesus on that main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on that main line. Tell him what you want.
That was for you, Brad O'Neill. That was Mr. Jason Crabb in rare form of Jesus on the Main Line. We'll give it a shout out to Brad O'Neill this morning, who will be dearly missed as he is off to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where Coffee Talk will be birthed. It will be OKC Coffee Talk. We look forward to the podcast recording of that, Mr. O'Neill.
Fancy.
And we'll have to call into each other's show. But this morning we're in Matthew 25 and multiply 4.2. And Matthew 25 is absolutely and utterly brutal. I don't know if it's something that you're allowed to talk about at 6 in the morning, but we shall wrestle this and put it in a rear naked chokehold. And we will take it to the ground.
Give it an anaconda squeeze.
Anaconda squeeze. So, this is OB Coffee Talk. I think we talked about the parable of the 10 virgins within the last 4 weeks of Coffee Talk.
I want to say it was in Multiply, wasn't it?
I don't know.
At some point.
But I don't remember talking about it.
I don't know. I know we talked about the talents.
How so many people are so unprepared.
But they think they're prepared.
Yeah, people get it's the fire insurance prepared, you know? You actually think you're prepared, and then you go to cash in your insurance policy and you realize you didn't have flood insurance.
It's like, sir, you didn't. Sir, you haven't paid your premium in years.
Growing up, I always thought that this was one of the saddest parables.
The virgin one?
It is extremely sad.
Seems like I remember hearing a sermon once about, they talked about how crucial how the Jewish wedding ceremony and everything worked, and how much time and preparation goes into it, and how these people missed out on it. I just remember it being super sad, and it still is. It's kind of weird too that they would go out to try to buy some stuff at midnight, but I mean, there's no Walmarts or anything back then, so I guess they had to go to the 7-Eleven. I don't know.
They had to wait till the markets opened up, you know?
Or hope Waffle House had something.
Or hope the Waffle House was open. It is. I just, this is very much a second coming foreshadowing, just, relating it to it. But, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, how often are we prepared? What if Jesus were to come back on a Sunday morning? How prepared were we when we came in there? I don't know. I just imagine a lot of people are going to be looking at each other when the rapture happens and say,
Didn't see that coming.
didn't see that one happen.
I wonder where they went.
You think Jesus will let us eat at Cheddar's before he takes us?
Hey, Jesus, hold on. We have a potluck scheduled for tonight.
Jesus, did you bring the brownies?
The foolish or the wise. I mean, it's very black and white here.
Yeah.
There is no gray area of. And we can go all the way back to the Sermon on the Mount, and you can figure out quickly who the foolish and the wise are. It's two paths, it's two fruits, it's two foundations. There are no, between the first and the second, there's a little gray area. There is none of that. It's you're either one or the other. You're either the narrow path or you're the broad path. And, you either have oil or you don't have oil. It's very much.
How many times have you run out of gas in your car when you were going somewhere?
One time.
I've done it down once. And you always think, I've got enough to get there. Nope. I don't know, all of Christ's parables fall under this. The majority of them fall under this. There are two groups here. Because if we look at the next parable, with the sheep, I mean, the idea is, listen, you either did what I asked you to do or you didn't. There's no middle ground. There's no gray area. It's you are this or you're not this. And that's one of the big things, especially in this chapter, that he really points out. A lot of people think that, well, if I just do this much, I'm okay. And no, it's either you do it all or you don't do any of it.
Right. You either went and did something with your talent or you didn't do anything with your talent.
Yeah, I think I would.
I feel like there's probably another way to look at the virgins too, though, because I mean they all had oil with them. They all had the ammo they needed. Just 5 of them didn't have enough. They either weren't capable enough of finishing, or confident enough of finishing, or I guess faithful enough that he would come. Because they all, I mean, they burned. Their light shone for a little bit. All 10 of them. But at one point, 5 of them lost that. So they had the basics, but it wasn't enough to get them into the wedding feast.
So would that be the ones who walk the aisle, and I guess that's the fireproof, right? The whole, when you walk the aisle, you say, well, I accepted Christ, that's all I needed. Well, yeah, that gets you a little bit of oil, but that doesn't.
It's as if they had the head knowledge, but they didn't have it in their heart.
Yeah.
They said all the right things, they knew all the right things, but truly believing the right things, truly obeying the right, I don't know, I guess it would kind of be like the Pharisees related to everybody else, They had it all together, but then again, they didn't have it all together. It almost flew right over their head.
Obviously the point is watch, for we don't know the day or the hour. That's the point. And, that begs the question: am I watching? Do I really think that Jesus could come back? Am I one of the people that I have the knowledge that he could, but do I have that belief that he could? Yeah, but does that play out in my life? Do I actually carry around that preparation?
You live each day as if it could be.
That's a good point.
Because I don't. I know I don't.
I mean, how many of us really live in light of eternity? I mean, I keep thinking, I'm 33, I got time.
God, you're old.
Yeah, but why didn't the wise bridesmaids be willing to share?
Yeah, because they only had brought enough oil just for them.
They had some extra,
I think had they shared, then they all would have ran.
They all would have been.
Yeah.
The 5 were actually gone when the bridegroom showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went out to town to get their stuff.
I mean, I guess, at the end of the day, people they want to go to heaven on the coattails of other people, and that don't fly.
Or what would have happened if they had stayed there and not went to get any oil?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Even if they were in the dark, how would that have happened?
Yeah. Would you let them in?
I don't know. It can all be speculation, but
And be careful not to do too much of that, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about being prepared
Yeah.
and preparing the others around you, which, again, we'll go back to discipleship and the importance of that. I wonder, just thinking about, those people who use the fire insurance mentality, if they're very much like the person who hid the 1 talent in the ground. God, this guy, he hid a talent on the ground because he knew his master was a hard man. He did not sow, or he reaped where he did not sow, and he gathered where he did not scatter seed. So he's afraid, and he went and hid his talent. I wonder if, just thinking about people in general today, especially, churchgoers, God, I hid your talent on the ground because I was afraid of being stained by the world. I was afraid of,
I was afraid I'd disappoint you.
that I wouldn't bring joy to you, and So what I did is I kind of hunkered down in my pew and took the bunker approach and hid in the bunker for
50 years.
50, 60 years, whatever you want to call it. And it's there is something to be said about that, obviously, but really the only thing you can take with you is the people you share Christ with. And so, eventually the guy was called wicked by his master. And I wonder if we took that same concept and said, okay, I'm trusting Jesus with my life, and this is supposed to be a man that changed the world, and I'm now supposed to change the world, yet I'm going to hide it down because I'm just afraid. Could that fear be turned into Jesus calling us wicked? You're wicked, And did these guys fail at the time that the guy that took the 5 talents and made 5 more talents, did he fail at some point in that time period? I don't know. It doesn't tell us that, but there's a possibility that guy took the 5 talents, lost 2 of them, but ended up regaining to get to 10 total. But the thing is he went out and put that to work. He went out and took it what he was given and put that to work.
And he did that, underlined at once, immediately. He didn't take it and just wait a while, but he did that, verse 16, at once. And I get the sense that he received it, and then as soon as he did, he started investing.
Yeah, he started trading them with him. And it doesn't say, maybe he did, and maybe it was, like right here it is. It says probably the note says, the first and second servants acted industriously and earned a return on their entrusted amounts, probably by setting up some kind of business. Well, when you set up some kind of business, you have to invest something. So he invested the 5 talents, which would mean he had 0
at some point.
But worked diligently to earn up to 10. And how do we act in obedience with the talent that God has given us? I don't know. I kind of think, I'm trying to think about this in terms of, this might be totally wrong and not right, but, I look at the people who invested in my life, and I can probably attribute, I don't know, I would say probably 4 people in my life that truly invested and poured their life into me. Just growing up, there are more than that along the way, but just looking at those 4 people, am I to turn around and make sure that 8 people, 16 people or whatever, and keep going? I mean, that shouldn't be my ending number. Say, okay, I've done 8, bam, I'm done, But
I served.
How are the people that invested in us and poured their life into us, how are we turning that back around and investing that in others?
One thing about this parable that is interesting to me is like how many different ways people look at it. Like people look at this as like a parable about money. People will look at this as about a parable of God actually gave you a physical talent. If you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. I don't know if a whole lot of people I've ever talked to really use it or interpret it as a discipleship parable, which is how in recent history I've kind of started to understand it as more Christ asks you to take the talents that he's given you and go out and invest them in other people and bring back the talents there. But I think that's what's crazy about the parables, and that's what I really think is what has caused so much disunity in different churches and stuff, is the parables. If you truly don't have the Holy Spirit to help you interpret them, it's easy to go astray with it.
Yeah, it is. And I love what it was Francis Chan who said it in Multiply, that we have to be careful because there is only one interpretation of Scripture. And there can be multiple applications, obviously situational, but there's just one interpretation. Yeah. This is what it actually meant, but this is how it can be applied. And I think the thing with this one is I think it's very simple. God gave these men some resources, and they took those resources, it happened to be money in this instance, and took that money and they multiplied their resources. And we have to ask ourselves this: with the resources that God has given us, are we multiplying our resources? Now it could look different in situational things, you know.